Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Kesteven series. This is a large Lincolnshire district centred around the town of Sleaford. There's 75 parishes here, so let's take a look at one of them. Hello folks, welcome back to North Kesteven for the first time since last year. Now for this first episode, as the series starts properly, we're in a place that used to have a railway station, and I'm standing on the route of the old railway line. It will make several appearances during these next few episodes. You'd be lucky to know there was even a line here, because if you turn the camera around you can see it's all housing at the moment. See, there's a house there, there's a massive housing estate here. This is Rutland Avenue, and on the corner of Rutland Avenue there's a building which kind of is the only thing remaining from the days of the railway, because I'm not totally sure of this, but I think that's something to do with the old station. Welcome to Waddington. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like, and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome back to North Kesteven, everyone, and the series continues with a village that's joined at the hip to the city of Lincoln. This is Waddington, situated approximately 4 miles south of the city on the A607, the main road towards Grantham. The name Waddington means farm or settlement of the people of Wada. It has a population in excess of 6,000, thanks mainly to the suburbs of Lincoln that fall within its boundaries and the married quarters at the landmark that it's most well known for. That would be the enormous RAF Waddington, which occupies a huge area of land to the east of the old village. The RAF dominates Waddington's history, but as well as that, there are some other interesting bits to tell you here. Before the RAF arrived, horse racing was a thing here, which took place on the heathlands, which would become the RAF base. Industrially, Waddington was an important centre for malting, brickmaking and stone quarrying, all of which have now ceased. Transport-wise, in the 1800s, a railway line was opened through the village, and there was a station which lasted for almost a century. Trains last called here in 1962, 3 years before the line fully closed. It also has a connection to the mathematician George Boole, the founder of Boolean logic, and in 1790 there was a notable fight between two women, no less. Keep watching to learn all about that and more. We begin our journey around the parish of Waddington within a built-up area that's joined to Lincoln's southernmost reaches. This is Station Road, so named because Waddington once had a station which was on the Lincoln to Grantham line. The line and the station were opened by the Great Northern Railway in 1867, closing almost a century later in 1962. Rutland Avenue, the suburban street here today, skirts the edge of the former line. There are very few visible traces left. Over the road there's a gate and a farm track. The line sort of followed the line of that track south towards Harmston. The line remained open until 1965. The remaining station buildings, which are few, were restored in 2010. These are located close to the properties on Station Road. The rest has been built over by new housing estates. So a bit of railway history to start us off here in Waddington, but of course this is a village that's known more for its airbase, a very much active airbase where the Red Arrows are now based actually. Let's head up the hill into the village and start walking around. Our main walk begins on Far Lane on the northernmost edge of the old Waddington village. It's expanded a lot over time. This area, full of tight narrow lanes, like Moxon's Lane for example, is a world away from the RAF base to the east. You can tell just by looking at it, Waddington was mainly an agricultural community. It was so until the late 19th century. There are some modern businesses here now. At the corner of Lower High Street is transport company Manpro. We're on the High Street now and we're in the village centre. Some folk know this as the Old Town Square. Here's Waddington's former Wesleyan chapel. Built in 1905, it became a private house a century later in 2005. Over the road is one of 3 pubs in Waddington, but this one is permanently closed. This is the Horse and Jockey. It was originally a 16th century coaching inn and it's a Grade 1 listed building. It's built of local limestone and is oak framed. Waddington is one of those villages that's so quiet at this time in the morning. Well, to be fair, it is only just past 6 AM. I've started really early with this run. I've got lots to do today. When it's in full swing though, that place will be open. That's the Coffee House, which is a cafe for food and drink. We continue down the high street and the stone cottages start to give way to some sporadically placed brick houses. You might notice some familiar way markers along here as well. Waddington sits right on the Viking Way. Next we turn onto Caps Lane, one of a few stone-walled lanes named after Waddington's early farmers. It brings us to Hilltop, which runs along the edge of the Lincoln Cliff. That should be also familiar to you by now. Waddington is considered one of the cliff villages, all of which have this brilliant view into the valley below. We'll be seeing these views a few times over the next few episodes, and they gradually get better and better. For now, we're following Hilltop to the south and we're about to re-enter the old village again via Ash Lane. Once again, we're on a tight, narrow street with stone cottages. Essentially, that is what Waddington Village is all about. So you're probably thinking to yourself right about now, where's the airbase? This doesn't look like a village that's got an airbase. Well, trust me, it does. It's just a bit further around this route. We've got to go back onto the high street now to catch the other end, and we'll catch the church as well. Here's Tinker's Lane, another road that's named after a former local farmer. This will take us back to the high street. And here it is. Again, it's more of the same. Local limestone buildings with some brick-built ones in between. One that's made of brick is this, Waddington's former malt kiln. Malting was once an important local industry. Next up is a small playground. Waddington's main recreational space is at the village hall, which is yet to come. Then it's the community hub. Formerly the youth club, the parish office moved into a part of this building in 2007. They then bought it from the county council in 2014. The parish notice board is on the wall, and that's another off the list. Mail Court comes next, upon which is a retirement home complex comprising 22 bungalows. It was built in 1995. This house is next to the second of the 3 pubs, and this one is still very much open. It's called the 3 Horseshoes. Both pubs' names are thanks to a former racecourse. RAF Waddington is now built on the land it occupied. On the corner of Church Lane, which is opposite, is a barber shop called Bristles and Blades. It was formerly called Bill's. And all of that brings us to the end of Church Lane and to the parish church of St Michael, which you can see behind me right here. There we go. Let's go in and have a look at this. The Church of St Michael and All Angels, built in 1954, stands on a commanding site in the centre of the old village. It's at least the third church the village has had to its name. Originally, Waddington had a 12th century church. It was rebuilt in 1721, but it was destroyed in 1941 when 2 aerial mines were dropped by the Germans on the village. 71 houses and the Horse and Jockey pub were also damaged. Its fine peal of bells remain as a reminder of that night. The raid also damaged Waddington's original Great War Memorial. That was replaced, and we'll see it shortly. Now, seeing as this is an RAF village, it will come as no surprise to learn there are plenty of war graves here. Here there are 2 burials from World War I and 31 from World War II, all of whom served with the air forces of the Commonwealth. Here's the War Memorial outside the cemetery. There are 28 names on this one in total, and it was unveiled in 2003. And as far as memorials go, that's not all, because also just outside the cemetery you've got this clock. Here we go. But it's the right time as well. Almost 25 to 7 in the morning. Now this clock has got a little story, and thanks to this little plaque here, I can tell you that story. This clock is a memorial to those members of 463 and 467 Royal Australian Air Force squadrons who gave their lives while serving with No. 5 Group RAF Bomber Command during the 1939 to 1945 war. And this was installed in 1987 according to that date in the corner. And to go with that, you've also got this pretty little mosaic. How about this? We're heading towards that airbase. I'm promising you that right now. We're heading towards the airbase. There's still a few other bits to catch before it though. Waddington does alright for itself when it comes to shops. On Bar Lane, there's a co-op and a post office. There's also Budgeons, open from 8 AM until 10 PM during the week and at slightly different times at weekends. Over the way is Red Roof Clinic, a foot health clinic that's been in this new centre of Waddington for over 20 years. There's hair salons, takeaways and cafes too. It's fair to say Waddington has everything a village of this size needs. This building at the end of Bar Lane used to be Waddington Fish Bar. I'm not sure if it is now, because it looks different. Now we've hit the A607 at a traffic light controlled crossroads, where it meets Bar Lane and Mere Road. Immediately adjacent we find Waddington's fire station. There's a second one in Waddington too. It's on the RAF base. This building next door is the Cliff Village Medical Practice. We'll be seeing a second branch of this in a future episode. And there's a bus stop here as well. Waddington is served by the No. 1, which connects it to Lincoln and Grantham. Okay, just a bit further down the A607 you've got the entrance to the village hall, and as you can see it's a new entrance, new village hall entrance. So we're going to walk down here. You've got the playing field on your right hand side. Over there, the village hall is dead in front of us. It's that building in the very far distance. We're going to walk past that and then come out the other entrance to the village hall, and then we'll be staring the airbase in the face. The village hall, its ancillary buildings and the village playing field sit within a 21-acre site off the A607. Here's the playing field. This features a playground and several football pitches. Lowlands Junior Football Club are based here. The village hall hosts a range of community events and can be hired out. I've included a link to the price list below. Lowlands provide grassroots football for children aged 4 to 17. They're members of the Mid-Lincolnshire Youth League. If you're interested in indoor bowls, that's played every Monday and Friday evening here in the village hall from 7:15 p.m. Waddington Dramatic Society make use of this building as well. Here's an advert for one of their upcoming productions. Once through the village hall, you'll exit onto Mere Road, a long straight street which ends in a set of big metal gates. We're at the main entrance now to RAF Waddington. Heavily guarded by security, this is as far as I can go. Now, of course, we've seen plenty of RAF bases in our time doing this, but the difference is here at RAF Waddington is it's an active air base. It's not an old one which is just left abandoned and been turned into something else. This one is still very much in use, and of course it's where the red arrows are these days. And as you can see, it's MOD property, unauthorised entry prohibited, which means I can't go any further, of course, than these gates. So I can't show you the airbase with the camera, but what I can do is give you today's special section all about it. Occupying 970 acres of land to the east of the village, RAF Waddington is one of the few remaining active air bases in Lincolnshire and also one of the most famous. The station's history can be traced back to 1916 when it was opened as a Royal Flying Corps training station where members of the US Army were taught to fly a variety of aircraft. During World War II and just after, no fewer than 8 squadrons were based here at various times, including the famous 617 Dambuster Squadron. The station is now the RAF's intelligence, surveillance, target acquisition and reconnaissance hub and houses a fleet of aircraft including the Shadow R1 and the RC-135W Rivet Joint. It's also the current home of the aerobatic display team, the Red Arrows, who moved here permanently from RAF Scampton in October 2022. And speaking of aerobatics, between 1995 and 2014, it hosted the Waddington International Air Show, which attracted thousands of spectators every year. And here's something else which would have had a few spectators back in 1790. That was the year that a boxing match took place between 2 local women. The participants were Mary Farmery and Susanna Locker, both of whom laid claim to the affections of a young man. The lucky so-and-so, eh? Farmery challenged Locker to a fight for the prize, a challenge which was duly accepted. Proper sidesmen were chosen and every matter was conducted in form. After several knockdown blows on both sides, the battle ended in favour of Mary Farmery. 2 days after, so the legend goes, Mary would lead her happy man to the altar. However, whilst there are plenty of accounts of the fight, parish records show no evidence of the subsequent marriage ever taking place. Susanna Locker, however, did marry a man by the name of Richard Harmston at Caythorpe in 1795. Finally getting up the aisle, perhaps we should declare Susanna the ultimate victor. A few steps left. Our last section begins at All Saints Academy, a primary school at the western end of Mere Road. The school is notable, not because of its architecture, but more for its gates, which have an unusual design. These are to do with mathematician George Boole, who taught at Waddington Academy boarding school in the 1830s. Boole invented Boolean logic, a form of algebra centered around 3 simple words, or, and not. It would take me ages to try and explain that fully, so there are links for it below. Next, we have the wheat sheaf. Built of stone, the wheat sheaf is the last of the 3 pubs, prominently situated on the A607 crossroads. We've got just a handful of things left to see along the A607. One of them is Waddington's petrol station. That's followed by a largish green, which is where the Waddington village sign you saw at the beginning of this video is located. And lastly, there's an industrial estate containing various businesses, which is built on the site of a former quarry. And if you keep heading north back up the A607, on the right hand side you pass no end of new build houses. Waddington is one of those villages that keeps ever expanding, and it does so towards Lincoln. It won't be long, and soon it may well be joined to it. Oh wait a minute, it already is. And that's been Waddington, folks, the first of a run of villages along the A607. We're going to work our way along the cliff over the next few episodes before ending at the A17 on the border between the Kestevens. There are 7 other cliff villages to cover on the way. I'll see you in the next one in 7 days' time. Thanks for watching this video, folks. Don't forget to like this episode if you haven't already. It really makes a difference with YouTube. If you're new here, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us a share too if you've got friends who'd like it. You can find all the links to my social media accounts below, as well as my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can donate to the channel. Also, if you've enjoyed this episode, have a look at some more videos in this series. Until next time, I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.